Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're plunging into some fascinating ideas today, pulling out insights that, well, hopefully really matter to you. Today, it's something super universal, deeply personal. The whole quest for happy relationships, right? For harmony in marriage. I mean, let's be honest, we've all hit those points where things just feel off, or we wonder why certain patterns keep, cropping up. And the source we're diving into today, it offers this really surprising take. It suggests the root of all marital trouble is basically ignorance of how our own minds work. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How this text, we're looking at excerpts from PowerChange14.pdf, how it frames marital success. It's not presented as, luck or just finding the one randomly. Instead, it positions a harmonious marriage as like a direct result of applying these inner psychological principles. It's a very mind-centric way to look at relationship issues. Suggests our inner world has maybe way more impact than we generally think.
Right. And our mission today, for you listening, is to pull out the practical stuff, the insights, the techniques from this source, things that might empower you to, foster a more harmonious marriage or maybe even attract the right partner, all by working with your own mind. So yeah, get ready to maybe rethink a few things. We've got some surprising facts and definitely some actionable advice coming up. Okay, let's jump right into that foundational claim you mentioned. The source says, ignorance of the functions and powers of the mind is the cause of all marital trouble. And that makes this really bold statement. That by using the law of mind correctly, all the friction between partners can just be solved. That's quite something. Does it elaborate on why ignorance is supposedly the only cause, or what these powers are?
It does, yeah. It directly links things like divorce, separation, annulment, even endless legal battles. It says these are directly traceable to lack of knowledge of the working and interrelationship of the conscious and subconscious mind.
Hmm.
So when it talks about the subconscious, it means that huge sort of hidden part of our mind, right? Where our beliefs, habits, deep programming live. It runs under the surface, but really shapes how we see things and act. And the text argues, interestingly, that the best time to prevent divorce is actually before marriage, by tackling the real cause, which in its view is always about how the mind is creating or preventing these issues.
Okay. That brings up a key point then.
Mhm.
If our minds are the root, what does a real marriage look like from this mind-focused perspective?
Well, the source is pretty clear. It says, for a marriage to be real, it must first be on a spiritual basis. It emphasizes it being of the heart, calling the heart the chalice of love. And that love shows up through things like, honesty, sincerity, kindness, integrity between the partners. Right. And that immediately contrasts with what it calls false reasons for getting married. It gives examples like marrying just for money or social status or this kind of vague idea of security. It even quotes someone saying, I'm tired of working. I want to get married because I want security, and calls that a completely false basis. And what's fascinating, connecting to the bigger picture, is how it flips the script on security in relationships. The text argues true security, and it defines that broadly, like wealth, health, peace, joy, inspiration, love, happiness, that comes from knowing your own inner powers. I'm using the laws of our own mind constructively. It's not dependent on a husband or father or, well, anyone else, really.
So if real security comes from inside, how does that translate into actually, attracting the right kind of partner for you?
Yeah.
Using these ideas, well, the source gives a core principle first. Whatever you impress upon it, the subconscious mind will be experienced in your world. That's the key idea, it says, for attracting what you really want. But how do you actually do that? How do you impress the subconscious effectively?
It lays out what it calls an excellent technique for attracting an ideal husband. It suggests sitting quietly at night, closing your eyes, relaxing. Then you talk to your subconscious mind. You state the qualities you desire. I am now attracting a man who is honest, sincere, loyal, faithful, peaceful, happy, and prosperous. The key is feeling these qualities, letting them sink in, become part of you almost. And importantly, it includes affirming mutual contribution. I know I can contribute to his peace and happiness. He loves my ideals. I love his ideals. He does not want to make me over. Neither do I want to make him over. There is mutual love, freedom, and respect. The whole idea is that doing this consistently, this impregnating process, it leads to attracting someone like that. Your subconscious intelligence, it says, will open up a pathway. It's more than just thinking positive. It's about building this deep internal blueprint, a mental equivalent.
And there's a similar technique for attracting an ideal wife, right?
Okay.
Using the same kind of principles.
Exactly the same underlying idea. The affirmation goes something like, I now attract the right woman who is in complete accord with me. This is a spiritual union because it is divine love functioning through someone with whom I blend perfectly. And again, it stresses what you bring. I know I can give to this woman love, light, peace, and joy. I feel and believe I can make this woman's life full, complete, and wonderful. Then you list her desired qualities. She is spiritual, loyal, faithful, and true. She is harmonious, peaceful, and happy. We are irresistibly attracted to each other. And you finish with this strong statement of acceptance. I accept my ideal companion now.
Wow. So it really hammers home this idea that thinking quietly with real interest about these qualities,
Yeah.
you're actually constructing that mental equivalent inside yourself.
Precisely. And it does raise a big question for all of us, doesn't it? How consistent are we really in building these mental blueprints, not just for partners, but for anything we want in life? It really suggests our inner focus is constantly shaping our outer reality.
Okay, this leads perfectly into a case study you mentioned earlier. It really shows the power of these unconscious patterns. The source tells this story of a teacher. Get this. She'd had 3 husbands, and all 3 had been passive, submissive, and dependent. And she just couldn't figure out why.
Right, because her own internal pattern was driving it. The unconscious motivation, the source explains, came from her own personality, which was described as masculine domineering. So without even realizing it, she was attracting these submissive partners because, subconsciously, she wanted to be the dominant one. Her subconscious picture attracted to her what she subjectively wanted. She had to consciously learn to break that pattern.
So how did she do it? Did she use one of these techniques?
Yes, a very specific prayer or affirmation to break that old subconscious habit. She started affirming, I am building into my mentality the type of man I deeply desire. The man I attract is strong, powerful, loving, very masculine, successful, honest, loyal, and faithful. He finds love and happiness with me. I love to follow where he leads. And she focused on mutual desire, mutual gifts.
And what happened?
The result, it says, after several months of doing this consistently, was pretty striking. She met a physician described as a real man, former athlete, spiritual, definitely not passive, and he proposed within the first week. Their marriage apparently became ideally happy. The explanation given is that she claimed it mentally until she reached the point of saturation. She truly united with that new idea until her subconscious could bring it into her reality. It's a powerful illustration of inner shifts causing outer change.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly and talk about divorce. It's obviously a sensitive topic. How does the source handle that, given its focus on harmony?
Well, it acknowledges it's an individual problem. And importantly, it states divorce isn't always wrong. And it also says marriage isn't always the fix for loneliness either. It gives this really stark example of a woman whose husband was described as a dope fiend, an ex-convict, a wife beater, and a non-provider. And the advice given to her was simply that marriage is of the heart. The implication is clear. If the hearts don't genuinely connect, and especially if there's abuse, there's no divine law forcing someone to endure that suffering. It really underscores that focus on genuine internal alignment.
That makes sense. But what about situations where things just seem to fall apart?
Yeah.
The source talks about drifting into divorce.
Yes, it uses that phrase. It describes a young couple where the husband had this constant fear that his wife would leave him. He believed she'd be unfaithful. It became an obsession for him, this mental pattern of suspicion and separation. And eventually, his wife did leave. The text makes the point that divorce takes place first in the mind. The legal stuff just follows the mental break. But their story didn't end there. They actually got back together and tried what the source calls prayer therapy. They started actively radiating love, peace, and goodwill towards each other. They even alternated reading of the Psalms every night. And the result reported was that their marriage is growing more beautiful every day. It shows how powerful changing that internal mental atmosphere can be, even when things seem really bad.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those common friction points in marriage. The source addresses specific things, right? Like the nagging wife. How does it view that?
Its perspective is quite empathetic, actually. It says, many times the reason the wife nags is because she gets no attention. Oftentimes, it is a craving for love and affection. So it links the external behavior directly to an unmet inner need.
Right, so it's not just nagging for nagging's sake.
Yeah.
It's a signal.
Exactly. It fits the whole model. Unmet emotional needs, if not addressed constructively, pop out in these less helpful ways. So the solution offered isn't just stop nagging, it's deeper. It's give your wife attention and show your appreciation. Praise and exalt all her many good points.
Yeah.
Address the craving constructively, though it does also warn the nagging type of woman against trying to force the man into her particular pattern, calling that a quick way to disaster. The focus should be constructive.
Okay. And what about the other side, the brooding husband? There was a surprising claim about psychological adultery.
Yes, that definitely catches your attention. It says if a man broods, grows morbid against his wife because of the things she said or did, he is, psychologically speaking, committing adultery. But it's critical to get their definition of adultery here. It's not the usual one. We explain one meaning is idolatry, which they define as giving attention to or uniting mentally with that which is negative and destructive. So, when he's stewing in resentment or hostility, he's mentally uniting with negativity and thus being unfaithful to his vows to love, cherish, and honor her. He's focusing on the idol of negativity instead of the reality of his commitment. The solution proposed. He needs to consciously choose differently, to swallow his sharp remarks, abate his anger, be considerate, kind, courteous, and deftly skirt the differences by using praise and mental effort, basically, redirecting his mental focus.
And then there's this great mistake the source warns against, discussing your marital problems with, neighbors and relatives. Why is that seen as so damaging?
Several reasons are given. First, it degrades and belittles her husband or wife in the eyes of others. Second, it gets numerous people to think negatively about your relationship, adding to the negative energy, you could say. And maybe most importantly, as you dwell on the shortcomings by talking about them, you are actually creating these states within yourself. You're reinforcing the problem mentally. Plus, it points out that relatives' advice is often biased and prejudiced. It's not objective. The clear advice is never display the unhappy side of your marriage to your friends. Keep your quarrels to yourself. Refrain from criticism and condemnation. And if you need help, seek expert advice from a trained, impartial counselor. It's really about protecting the relationship's energy field, if you will.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, protecting the sanctity of it.
Yeah.
So this all points back to the idea that trying to change your partner is futile.
Worse than futile. According to this source, it calls it foolish.
Right. The text says explicitly, a husband must not try to make his wife over into a second edition of himself, and presumably vice versa.
Exactly, and it warns these attempts destroy her pride and self-esteem and stir up a spirit of contrariness and resentment that proves fatal to the marriage bond. The core message just keeps coming back. There is no one to change but yourself. Focus on your own mind and study your character and behavior. That, it implies, is where the real power and, frankly, the real work lies. It'll keep you busy enough.
Okay, so if changing yourself is the key, the source doesn't just leave us there. It offers practical daily steps, right? 3 steps for building harmony.
Yes, 3 concrete things for a daily practice. Step 1, never carry over from one day to another accumulated irritations. Forgive before you sleep, let it go. Then, when you wake up, claim infinite intelligence is guiding you. And consciously send out loving thoughts of peace, harmony, and love to your partner, your family, the whole world. Start fresh mentally each day.
Step 2 involves meal times.
Right. Say grace at breakfast. And the instruction is specific. No problems, worries, or arguments at the table. None. Instead, use it for appreciation. I appreciate all you are doing, and I radiate love and goodwill to you all day long.
Yeah.
And do the same at dinner time. Turn those routine moments into connection points.
And the 3rd step.
Husband and wife should alternate in praying each night. The focus here is again on appreciation, not taking each other for granted. Show love, think appreciation, think goodwill. The foundation, it says, is built on love, beauty, harmony, mutual respect, faith in God, and all things good. It even suggests specific Bible readings, Psalms 23, 27, 91, Hebrews 11, 1 Corinthians 13. And you have to wonder, right, how might doing these seemingly small things day in, day out actually shift the whole underlying dynamic of a relationship over time, build up this baseline of goodwill?
There's quite a perspective. We've covered so much ground, from why marriages struggle to these pretty powerful mind techniques. So what does this all mean? Let's try and distill some of the absolute core lessons for everyone listening.
Okay, let's recap the big takeaways from the source. First, the absolute bedrock. Ignorance of these mental and spiritual laws is the root of unhappiness. Conversely, praying scientifically together, you stay together. That's a direct quote. Second, marriage is defined as the union of a man and woman who are bound together by love, their hearts beat as one. It's about that heart connection. Third, happiness isn't just granted by marriage. It's found by dwelling on the eternal truths of God and the spiritual values of life. Partners actively contribute to each other's joy this way.
And about attracting the right person.
Right. Attract the right mate by dwelling on the qualities and characteristics you admire. Your subconscious will then bring you together. You have to build that mental equivalent of what you want in a partner. And crucially, you must be honest, sincere, and loving yourself first. You don't have to repeat past mistakes. When you really believe you can have the type man or woman you idealize, it is done unto you as you believe. Belief is key.
What about trust in the process?
Huge emphasis on that. Trust the wisdom of your subconscious mind completely. It has the know-how and you don't have to assist it. Let it work. Also, remember, you're mentally divorced when you indulge in peeves, grudges, ill will, and hostility towards your partner. So, adhere to your marriage vows on a mental level. Keep radiating love, peace, and goodwill to each other.
And the practical advice for common issues.
A nagging wife is usually seeking attention and appreciation, so praise and exalt her many good points. A man who loves his wife does not do anything unloving or unkind in word, manner, or action. Simple as that. If there are serious problems, always seek expert advice, not from potentially biased friends or relatives. And maybe the golden rule running through it all: never try to make your wife or husband over. Don't even try. Finally, that powerful summary: pray together and you will stay together. Mentally see your partner as he ought to be, joyous, healthy, loving, and hold that vision for the marriage made in heaven, which means harmony and peace right here.
Wow. This deep dive has really shown a light on how much our internal state, our own minds, shape our most intimate relationships. It feels like the blueprint for happiness in marriage, according to this source, really does start inside us. It challenges you to look inward first, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And maybe a final thought to leave everyone with, something to chew on. If our subconscious mind really holds this much power over who we attract and how our relationships actually play out, well, what other areas of our lives could be just as dramatically transformed if we consciously started shaping our internal beliefs and our mental pictures? It's a pretty big question.
A very big question indeed. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into marital harmony and the quite incredible power of the subconscious mind. We really hope these insights give you something valuable to think about and maybe even use to cultivate more love, peace, and understanding in your own connections.